France has scuppered the European Union's trade negotiations with Australia amid growing anger over the lost submarine deal. Paris has signalled it will block future talks between Brussels and Canberra after the latter's decision to renege on a contract for French-built submarines. Australia instead agreed to a new pact with Britain and the United States to purchase nuclear-powered vessels. Clement Beaune, France's hardline Europe minister, said future negotiations between the EU and Australia would be unthinkable as a result of the feud. He suggested that Brussels, which has held 11 rounds of talks with Canberra, could not continue its wrangling because of a breach of trust. Mr. Beaune, a close ally of President Emmanuel Macron, told the Politico news website, "Keeping one's word is the condition of trust between democracies and between allies. So it is unthinkable to move forward on trade negotiations as if nothing had happened with a country in which we no longer trust." While the European Commission handles trade negotiations on behalf of EU member states. Each agreement must be rubber-stamped by all 27 national capitals before it can enter into force. Paris has a history of sinking EU trade negotiations because of its opposition to such agreements. In 2016, former President François Hollande scuppered the transatlantic trade and investment partnership talks with the United States. And more recently Mr. Macron crashed the Mercosur agreement with South American countries. France has responded furiously to the signing of the so-called UK-US deal between Australia, the US and the UK. Paris has recalled its ambassadors from the United States and Australia as tensions continue to simmer. But the French refused to withdraw their top diplomat from London, instead of arguing that Britain is a fifth wheel on the coach in the new security pact. French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian ridiculed Britain's role and accused the UK of permanent opportunism. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has tried to cool the diplomatic row, telling President Macron that the UK's love for France is ineradicable. Responding to the anger, Mr. Johnson said the new defence pact was not meant to be exclusionary, nor something France needs to worry about. We work with France shoulder to shoulder in the Baltic states, in the biggest current NATO deployment, he said. British troops, French troops side by side, there are no two sets of armed forces that are more capable of integration together and working side by side. Our love of France is ineradicable and what I would say is this: a UK-US is not in any way meant to be zero-sum. It is not meant to be exclusionary, it is not something I don't think anything needs to worry about, and particularly not our French friends. Australia has also defended cancelling its £26 billion contract with France for the purchase of 12 submarines. Its Prime Minister Scott Morrison said he did not regret the decision to put Australia's national interest first. He denied that he'd been dishonest with the French government in the build-up to signing the agreement. Mr. Morrison said, "They would have had every reason to know that we have deep and grave concerns that the capability being delivered by the attack-class submarine was not going to meet our strategic interests. We had made very clear that we would be making a decision based on our strategic national interest." Quote,